What a great day. Yes? Yeah. So I really want to say first that I so appreciate all the folks who put this together, Drake, Terry, Liz, everybody who helped out, and all of you who showed up to spend a day here just talking about ideas. I also want to give a shout out to Jay for his MC hosting. Just a couple of points from me. Just in case, if, and it's a big if at this point, I think we can all agree, they let you do this again. A couple of things. First, I need you to break out of your shell a little. A little bit more personality, okay?
Got it.
Secondly, try to inject a little humor. Okay. My name is Aaron Thompson, and I am a troublemaker, a rabble-rouser, and a community radical. In my early 20s, when people called me those names, that hurt my feelings. Now, I kind of wear that as a badge of honor. Although I do want to say one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was from a leader of the 1960s civil rights movement when he told me, never let them put you into that box because you are so much more than this. And I think that's what we need to talk about today. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the context of our community. Talk a little bit about the story of me. So I am half African American. I am half Caucasian. My mother is white. My father is black. I didn't meet my father until I was 17 years old. I essentially grew up in a middle-class white family in Billings/Laurel, Montana. Now, the African American population of Billings, Montana is 0.3% of the population, which literally means that every time I go on a business trip, it's 0.2% of the population. So here we are. Me growing up, raised by my middle-class white family. My mom actually worked nights, and so I spent a lot of time with my maternal grandmother. She was a World War II veteran, Depression-era, tough old bird, as she would like to say. And my grandma would watch me. And I remember kindergarten, my first real experience with racism in this community. I'd gone to school, I did half a day kindergarten, I did mornings, and then I would walk home in the afternoon and grandma would be waiting for me. And on this particular day, I had gone to school, just a couple of days after we had started, and I was called a nigger. Now, at 5 years old, I don't think you really understand all that that means, but I did know that it meant that I was something different, and I knew that that difference meant that I was less than. So I go home to grandma, and I'm upset about this. And here she is, mid-50s, homesteaded in Baker, Montana, now lives in Billings, Montana, with a half-black grandson that she has to somehow explain this to. And this is the single most important moment of my life. What did she do? I don't know if it was that she didn't have the words, couldn't find the words. What she did was sat me down and read to me, "I have a dream." My grandma died when I was 17, before I really came to a conscious place and was able to ask her what her inspiration for sharing this thing with me was. All I know is that it changed the course of my life. That day, my grandma sitting down and reading the entire speech. What did I take from it? I took from it a concept of a beloved community. This year, I should say last year, 2014, was an extremely hard year for me as a community organizer in this town. When our city, our community, became the first community in Montana to vote down a non-discrimination ordinance. It's heartbreaking to me. And so afterwards, it causes a little soul searching. And the inspiration for my TED Talk comes from that pain and that disappointment. And I say that to tell you this. We as organizers must never forget the end goal. And the end goal is that of a beloved community where everyone is respected and validated, where everyone has an opportunity to be what they ought to be. Montana's big on live and let live. But I'm here to challenge you and say, that's not enough. How about we live and learn and then live a little more? So the concept of beloved community is really, really simple. That how we create the best community is not through the eradication of difference, but through its affirmation. Then you truly see me. Then I truly see you. We don't assign a hierarchy to our differences. We just see each other and how we live in the world. So the prime concept here is love, right? I get a little uncomfortable because I'm a dude, and you know how we are with love. So love, yes, absolutely. Now, I don't mean love in the terms of, Young and the Restless, Dallas. I mean love in terms of this greater overarching need to become a community that appreciates and celebrates one another. This idea that all of us have a little good in us, all of us have a little bad in us, some of us more bad than others, some of us more good than others, but all of us have both those things. That we are uniquely the same and uniquely different, and both of those things can exist all at the same time. So when we talk about this concept of love, I think the biggest problem that happens when we start talking about this is that people get the wrong idea. They take it a little too far. It's, can't we all just get along? And what if we all just didn't see color? Or what if we all just didn't see race? What if we all just didn't see religion and we were all the same? Well, I'm pretty sure if that were the case, there would be one guy left with a flat top, and that's it. So we learn to appreciate difference. We learn that love is more than just this ethereal thing. You see, here is where we're going, toward justice, that true peace isn't merely the absence of attention, but it is the presence of justice, that no human progress comes without a fight. It is not given voluntarily. We have to work for it. We were never promised anything, and so while we're here, we're going to work for it. We're going to create our own beloved community. And in doing so, we have to acknowledge our problems. I always tell people, the only Dr. Phil quote you're ever going to hear me use is, "You can't fix what you don't acknowledge." That's what happened to our community this year. We need to acknowledge that our community has this festering in it. And we need to reach out and talk to one another. We need to step up and be a voice in the fight to save our community and to make it that beloved community. I got my chance a couple of years ago finally to take my pilgrimage to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, and this is me standing just at the side with one of my favorite Dr. King quotes. And I think this is particularly useful for us today, not just in our community, but we know what's going on in our world and in our country. The events of Ferguson to New York has got us in a real place of despair. a real place of trying to figure out what it is and how we move forward. And I think it's simple. The answer is love. The answer is recognizing that our own thoughts and perceptions are not that of the person across from us. That just because we think it's so doesn't mean it is so. And that one reality can be different from another reality, and those two things are okay. But we have to seek and find common understanding and goodwill. Dr. King would teach us that the ultimate end of the civil rights movement through nonviolence was not to humiliate or defeat, but to win friendship and understanding. And to understand that when we were in the middle of the fight wasn't about a specific person. It was about an institution, a policy. That's where the evil lied. And we would do everything we could to rise up and fight that. Now, some people have asked me, how did you get all of that out of I Have a Dream? Simple. Because what I left out was the very last part of my story. And that's when my grandma closed the book. And she looked at me and she said, Aaron, you're different. But I and so many other people love that about you. For me, that was the only validation I needed. To understand that, yes, I was different, but that didn't mean I was less than. And it meant that I had a responsibility to share that with our world, with our country, with our community. And so after a tough 2014, when maybe I got drug up too much in hating the person across from me, or trying to combat what I felt were their ignorant comments, instead of talking about things like love and beloved community, I am making a new resolution for myself this year. And that's to never forget that the end goal is a beloved community. And so I just want to say to Grandma, because I know she's listening, I choose love. Because hate, too great a burden to bear.